I was playing catch up.
yeah, this is very much the easy mode still. So it ramps up pretty quickly. But yeah, I think in a good way. So um, yeah, any quick um, questions, feedback, from the session,
Yeah, I've got a question.
homework.
In terms of deliverables, we have where you add answer. I'm not sure how much are we meant to add answer, or we just meant to say this is done. And sometimes he asks for, yeah, sometimes when it says states clearly that do this, it's very clear. But the other times we're not sure if we are meant to just say okay, done, or just enter some information.
Uh, that is definitely like a question specific kind of thing, and it's a little hard to know. Like sometimes the answer of like just like, yeah, hey, like this is done is fine. Usually like I think most of the time like it'll be a little bit more specific of like, hey, answer this question, or like next week you'll be like building out like revenue models, you know, and we'll ask for like include a link to, like so it's not like just done, like include a link so we can review it. Um, I think there are definitely some questions where the answer is like, okay, done is fine.
For example,
But I don't have all the homework questions memorized to be able to be like, like which times.
I'll give an example. For example,
Yeah.
this presentation prep for buyer persona and outreach plan. It's just okay. This is what you'll be doing next week. Are we meant to link our deck, or we just say okay, done? Just so that it says
Sorry, say that again. I lost a couple of words there. So can you repeat the question?
one of the deliverable is it says next week you'll do a strategy presentation prep, so you need to prepare a deck, a 3 slide
Yeah.
deck, and pretty much that's it. So it doesn't say add the link of the deck or just
Yeah, yeah. No, that part is fine. That is just because that's like what you are presenting here. And we're going to talk about this a little bit in the housekeeping things. Let
I
me
can
actually,
actually answer that because I might have done one of them a week ahead. You can copy and paste the deck into that question and submit it.
so that's yeah. I could do that. So just like is that what I do, or just because I just say it, for example, done.
yeah, yeah. So that part is fine. Again, homework isn't like super for our review. This is you will get the feedback today when we go into the breakout rooms for that deck. So like every week you'll be presenting. There's like kind of two parts. So I was going to talk about this in housekeeping, but I think this is a good time to do it. Because I got this other question before, like, and I think it's a little new still for us. Like we're only this is the well, I guess third cohort we're doing this, but it's still a little bit new. Um, you have like your 1 minute pitch at the moment, your 60-second pitch that you'll be doing. In a few weeks, that will move to a 3 minute pitch. In a few weeks, that'll be a 5 minute pitch. So this is clarifying for not exactly your question, Rahul, but the 60-second pitch is like your overall pitch for your business, everything that you're doing. You should be like ready to like go for any session. You should be ready to pitch. That's like what we call our hot seats, right? Secondly, is what you're talking about, these like 3 slides, the strategic presentation. Those you will be ready to present to one of the mentors in our breakout rooms, like you did last week, a little presentation. You'll do those every week. You'll have like kind of 3 slides, one, a really quick overview of your business, and then like 2 slides that are specific on a question for that week. Those just saying like, hey, done is good. Obviously, like the important part about this is like you will actually be presenting those. So like the mentors will see, and if it's not done or if it's done in a crappy way, like we will,
So that
strike.
was a bit confusing because when you say like 1 minute, we thought like the whole 3 slide has to be presented in 1 minute. So
Yeah, it is. So this is a good feedback for us. We need to try to be like way more clear. Hot seat pitch. It happens to be the same amount of time, but yeah, there's a hot seat pitch that you will give and be ready for that all the time. Like, so that's kind of like your investor, your elevator pitch, whatever you want to call it. And then there are these like separate strategic things around a specific topic.
okay, that's
Like,
clear because I had to modify my pitch to include all that persona within 1 minute. Okay, so what do I cut?
yeah, yeah. So you've got, about an hour to do that. So so good. Let me actually pull up
Hi,
uh
Reed.
hey Rose. Good to see you. Good to see all the people. Well, I was going to pull up some slides, but it'll take a little while. We're going to switch things up. I'm going to have our mentors start to introduce themselves while we're doing things, and then while I'm pulling this up, and yeah. Rose, since you're off mute, I'll have you start.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. My name is Rose. I am excited to be here. I was a FI participant fellow um, 4 years ago. I think it's
God, has it been
been,
that long already? Wow.
I think so,
I
four
think
years,
no,
something
four,
like
yeah,
that.
like 2021, summer 2021. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And my background is design. I'm a designer by trade. I was running a waste company, but I also teach at Parsons School of Design. I've worked for B2B SaaS. I've worked for B2B SaaS, and currently working on a pretty large scale construction tech project. But all in all, my zone of mastery is user research, product development, customer discovery. So excited to be here.
Thanks.
I'd pass the
And
mic, but I don't know who I'm passing the mic to.
uh, Natalia.
Hi guys, my name is Natalia. I co-founded a branding and design agency here in New York City. I've been doing this work for about 20 plus years. Previously, before starting my own company, I've worked for larger agencies here in the city, working primarily with bigger design, like luxury brands within fashion world and jewelry. So there was Oscar de la Renta and Versace, as well as consumer goods such as Hewlett Packard and OXO Utensils. And for both of those companies, in one case, I was working primarily on consumer goods, anything from brand identity to packaging. On the other side, for the fashion industry, I worked in the web design field. And since that wasn't enough for me, I also started my own fashion company because why not? You're in the city, you're doing 100 million things at the same time. And that lasted for about 5 years. It was also kind of working on my own company or developing a company from ideation to final execution, having an idea in your head, and then actually producing the product, selling it, marketing it, dealing with all of that good fun stuff that comes along with it along the ways. And now I'm back in normalcy of just working for other, helping other businesses get their brands out into the world in a proper way. So happy to be here. I've been, helping Reed and FI for a few years now. He roped me into this, so now I can't stop.
Thanks,
So
Natalia.
I can't wait to see what you guys are working on. So very excited.
Pavel.
Hi. So I'm with the Founders Institute since 2012, so it's over a decade now. And my expertise is operations, business operation, product management, and project management. Currently, I'm co-founder of startup Finta that help with the fundraising. It's fundraising CRM with the AI on backend that help you prospect the investors. And I'm here basically because I'm happy to help in my free time.
And quick thing, like I haven't made this like explicit connection before, Pavel, but like so many founders, like before they come into the program, a lot of time, like I get the question a lot, like, can you help me like will Founder Institute help me find a co-founder? And by the way, we have a co-founding, like find your co-founder session tonight that I know many of you are excited about. We're going to talk about that in a second. But I'm always like, like it happens occasionally, but like it's not like something like it's not like you just come in and you. But Pavel and his co-founder for Finta is the previous managing director of Founder Institute. So you guys did connect through the Founder Institute.
Yeah.
And we've got a few more, definitely like more stories like that. But I just was thinking about that one.
Yeah, there has been cases. So basically, founders come to the program with just the idea, like sometimes even without the idea. And there's been cases where the founders actually joined. That the ones come with the idea they don't was basically Founders Institute is challenging you and your idea if you really want to put next 5 years into development. Of the idea and getting customers and etc. And if you not really feel sure that what Founders Institute do challenge it, your assumption, there is cases where the few founders just group together and become co-founders within the same cohort, within the same program.
Yeah. Thanks. Last but not least, Marina.
Thanks so much. Hey everyone, I am a product manager, and currently I serve as a fractional product manager on a couple of with a couple of clients. I also lead innovation facilitations sessions. So I help teams validate and refine their ideas. I mostly am concerned with viability and value to customers, kind of like the product sides of the product risk. Very excited to be here. It's my first session with Founders Institute, and I am very excited to be here. I love all the ideas, and that's why I work with them. And looking forward to hear yours.
Thank you, Marina. We're happy to have you with us. It's always good to bring in some new mentors along with some of the ones that have been doing this for 13 years and others for a few. So this is our customer development session. I am not an expert in customer development at all, but like after doing this for 5 years, I have come to think of this as like the most important session, like as far as I'm concerned of, I would like it to be the ones that I'm an expert in, but no, this I think is really thing that too many founders overlook. And so I try to emphasize it as much as possible. So quick agenda. We flipped this around. We did our mentor introductions already. Going to do a couple of little housekeeping items. We're going to flip this again. We're going to have Rose give her presentation, which I think I've seen at least a version of before and really like. Then we'll do a few founder hot seats, which we'll hopefully have you get ready. As I said, always be ready for your 60-second pitch, some Q&A, and then the breakout rooms. Couple things on housekeeping, like agenda items coming up. You should have all gotten a calendar invite. So this Monday we did our legal optional session. I think we had many of you, if not all of you there, but it was a pretty engaging session. I loved all of the back and forth and the questions. We will be doing another one of these next Friday with VisualCraft Andrew, our development partner that we've talked about. He's coming in on Friday. Good chance to sort of like understand what you should be doing, like even before you start to develop a product, like how you want to kind of build your business and think about things so that you can be prepared to start building. So that is coming up on Friday. Not this Friday, but the following Friday. You've got an invite in your inbox already. I covered this other one. This is the pitching versus breakout room assignments. So the strategic presentation is your breakout room assignments. Pitching will be your 60-second, your 3-minute, or eventually your 5-minute pitch. Rating mentors, I've also got this question a bunch, and it's different than how. So each week after a session, you'll immediately have the opportunity to rate the mentors and also I think occasionally the directors. We ask that you do that. That is like, really good feedback for us, for the mentors themselves. Your ratings are anonymous, but we use the aggregate to sort of understand who to invite back, who maybe isn't as useful. So really important to do that, and also rate the overall session. Was this like a good session, an okay session, or did the session kind of suck? We like to know that. We're all about like sort of candid, transparent feedback. The only thing I ask is, because of this format, which is still, as I said, a little bit new with the breakout rooms, you don't actually get real exposure necessarily to all of the mentors. So you will have Rose tonight who will pitch or who will present. You all get to see her. Please, give some feedback and ratings on that. And you will have the mentor that you're in a breakout room with, and you'll, get good interactions there. The other people you might not get to, you'll, maybe get a little bit of feedback from during when they pitch, give feedback on one of our hot seats. But don't feel like you have to rate the people if you don't feel like you had enough exposure to them, don't feel that you have to rate them. That's all. But please do rate the ones that you do.
I think one thing I'd like to add to that, Reed, is that your homework may show incomplete if you haven't rated all of the mentors, and I would worry less about that. I think we're trying to work through that. That may have already been resolved, but don't worry about that too much, right?
Thank you. That is a good point that I always forget. So can appreciate that. Yeah. Just because that was a problem we had with the homework a while ago. I know they've been trying to fix it. Hopefully it's been fixed, but if not, ignore that. Only rate the mentors that you think you can like have a good reason to rate. Finally, last thing, many of you have mentioned already, like seeing like, oh, hey, there's this like how to find a co-founder session tonight. That is a session that's put on by Founder Institute HQ. We've got these, pretty regularly, a bunch of different types of sessions, including this one. This one starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, which overlaps our session tonight. If you've already registered for it, know that you will get a recording sent to you later. But please do not leave this session until like your breakout room is completely finished. Then you're welcome to join the co-founder session, but please do stick around till the end.
Reed, is that a session that is hosted periodically, so we would have a chance to see it like 3 months from now?
Yes, I don't know that short answer is yes, like it is a fairly periodic one. We're not necessarily like on a really regular cadence of it, so I can't say that it's necessarily going to be like in the next 3 months. But we do sessions. We'll have like different guest speakers in to talk about it. So like the content will be different each time. But I know how to find a co-founder is one that comes up pretty regularly. So my guess is we will have another one of those before the end of the cohort.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah. And again, if you did register for it, you'll at least get the recording. And I think like usually the way those work is like it's a little bit similar to ours. First bit tends to be more, presentation focus, and the second half a little bit more networking Q&A. So like if you join for the second half, I think you still get quite a bit out of it. But yeah, any other questions? Okay. So as I said, we already had our mentors introduce themselves. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and Rose, I'm handing it over to you.
Wow. Okay. Here we go. Thumbs up. Locked and loaded.
Thumbs up. Yep.
Cool. So there are a billion things that I could say today. So my invitation for all of you is to please follow up with me if you have specific questions or you want to talk about your specific context. But I come from user research and product design with a very wide range of businesses, and I've found kind of these core principles to remain pretty true across the board. And my disclaimer here is that this is going to be a little bit of a design-infused background. My background is design. I think if you're not familiar with design, my gut is that you're probably more of a designer than you think you are. And so open your ears and see if you can learn something and call yourself a designer after this. So problem is a little bit like a Rubik's Cube. I love this metaphor because we look at this, and if you don't know how to Rubik's Cube, oh, am I glitching? Am I good to go? Okay. Everyone's freezing a little bit, so I just want to make sure I'm not glitching. So if you don't know how to solve one, you kind of look at this and you're like, chaos, right? You can describe it with a bunch of adjectives or attributes. If you know how to solve it, you know that there's kind of a strategy to it and you know what patterns to look for.
Is she freezing for everybody else? Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
she was only freezing for half a second. This one's a lot longer.
Zoom shut down for like 3 hours today in the middle of the day. So it could
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully she will come back because this is a really good presentation. I know, but we will. Let me just text her really quick. Okay. Always rolling with it. So what we're going to do is we are going to switch and we are going to do our hot seats now. And hopefully she'll be able to come back and give the presentation afterwards. But let's see here.
Am I back? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you are back. Okay.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happening. My internet has been working all day. Of course, it's going to stop in the middle of the presentation.
Well, Sophie did mention, yeah, like Zoom had a 3-hour outage today. I
Oh.
assume you've gotten those emails from New School too. I've gotten like 6 emails about it, I think, in the last
Well,
time.
if I freeze, see if you can ping me in the chat and I'll shut off my video if that's going to help, all right?
Okay.
We're just going to keep it going and you ping me if we're cutting out. Okay, cool. So we're here. You can see my screen. We're in the messy middle of this Rubik's Cube. And we want to get here, right? This sense of clarity, ease, really clear patterns, and doing so pretty strategically. So this to me is like the foundation of customer development, which is actually just really good design, right? Customer development is the foundation of effective design, which also translates to you creating a real super desirable business offering. If you're familiar with IDEO kind of like grand created quote design thinking, right? This is a graph that you might have seen before, but we're trying to hone in on that beautiful triangle right there at the center of these 3 circles. Usually we're asking ourselves, is something technical, right? Is it feasible? Can we actually do it? Is it viable as a business? We're all familiar with that. We need to be making money as a company, right? That we have a sustainable business model. Customer development is really honing in on that blue circle. We're asking, is this actually desirable for people and are they really going to pay for it? So this is what we're trying to get to, big, shiny, fancy innovation. So really actually knowing your customers will dramatically change the success of your trajectory, right? And this is why I think it's super critical to do at a really, really early stage. And I mean really knowing them. Not just saying, hey, I've got this idea and showing them your website and you're getting a thumbs up, right? There's a really big difference between genuinely knowing your customers and planting an idea in their heads and then they kind of validate what you're talking about, right? We're not trying to do that. We're really trying to get to the core weakness of our businesses in order for it to really sustain long term. So how do you actually know if you're solving a real problem? This is where I'm going to introduce a little bit of design lingo that hopefully you can adopt and use. So design is a tool, realistically. You don't have to be a professional designer to be a good one. Some of the best design is policy, right? Design criteria are going to shape the success of what a thing is supposed to do, right? So the success of an outcome. In this circumstance, we're looking at a chair, right? It's firm, it's solid, it's hard, it's structured, it's inflexible, it's lightweight. It's probably for a classroom or a dining hall or a place where you have to sit at a desk, right? We need something for people to sit upright at a table. Clear, super clear criteria. Everything around us has these attributes, whether we notice them or don't notice them. And the problems that you're trying to solve also have these attributes, right? And this is born from the design criteria. We want to create a comfortable lounge experience for people to relax, right? So we're going to design something that's soft, plush, reclined, wide, accepting, right? And we don't have to be industrial designers to really apply this to our businesses. So let's take the example of this mask, right? We look at it. What are my attributes? I'd invite you to describe me, but I've only got 20 minutes, so I'm going to insert the answers for you, right? You can stick it in our pocket. It's disposable, right? It's lightweight. It's usable. This is intended for something on the go, something that's intended to be thrown away, right? A medical context. Has anyone seen this before? This is the exact opposite. This is an oxygen restriction mask, right? The thing here is exactly the same. You would define both of those as a mask, right? But the function of what they are is radically different, completely different attributes. So if you say, hey, I'm building an app, right? That doesn't really tell us all that much about the function of what you're trying to achieve, right? Let's look at another example. The infamous first laptop, right? The first MacBook laptop. What are the attributes of this? It's sleek, it's lightweight, you can use it on the go, right? What is it intended for? We're probably using the internet, right? We're doing things on our laptop. We can do things on the go, right? Then we also have the iPhone, intro iPhone, right? What is the iPhone intended for? The exact same thing, right? We are doing the exact same thing on the phone as we are on the laptop, right? But the function, right, or the thing is completely different. So in this case, we see the opposite of the mask. So really understanding our actual problem allows us to define these super successful criteria that are going to make or break your solution, right? And this works for intangibles, business models, incentive structures, community organizations, right? So let's take a look at an example of really understanding the problem in order to get to those successful criteria. We could say, how would someone track moisture? And we could probably pick out and maybe call to mind something like this. We've got a little moisture meter. It looks like it sits on a desk. It's lightweight. It goes on the go, right? And we say, okay, when do they need to track their moisture? It's probably in ambient moisture. If we said, okay, how do we track the moisture of woodworking, right? Wood absorbs and releases moisture. You have to bring it into your house for weeks before you install your wood floor. It's going to look something like this. We have different attributes that are going to inform the success of what it is that we're doing. So how would we track the moisture of plant soil? We're probably imagining something like this. We can stick it in our house plant, right? Different physical attributes. Or maybe we didn't specify, right? How do we track the moisture of soil on a farm field? Right? I didn't actually specify moisture of soil, whether it's plant soil or farm soil. So we're picking up these nuances of circumstance that are really important to shape the success of our product. But ultimately, we're not actually asking the right question, right? How do we track moisture? Are we tracking moisture, or are we actually just trying to maintain optimal water moisture, right? What am I actually trying to do when I buy a moisture meter for my plants? Is it that I really want to know the moisture levels, right? Or is it that I actually just want to understand when I need to water and when I don't need to water, right? So the specificity, the attributes of this problem are really important for shaping why it actually needs to happen, right? So why is this thing like this, right? It's so that we can use internet on the go in a different way than we probably would have been able to with that initial laptop. So we can transition from thinking about what it is that we're trying to describe or what it is that we're trying to find into why it actually needs to happen in the first place. And this is kind of the goal with customer development. We're looking at the attributes of look, feel, time, place, size, shape, cost, market, use case, right? These are all the different attributes of the problem that we're trying to unpack. So why it needs to happen, right, is shaping our success criteria. Across all of these different examples, we're defining why does this thing actually need to be this way? And you probably have some gut sense of, okay, well, I know that my customers want to do this, or it needs to be accessible, or it needs to be fast, right? So the nuance of this particular circumstance is going to shape the success of your outcome as a solution. And why it needs to happen ultimately is your ability to compete, right? So the difference between you and your competitor is a really specific understanding of, well, am I designing this? Am I creating this business in a way that's going to remain desirable and remain competitive to the people that I want it to? Cool. And this is also, I'll add in the term product market fit functionally, right? So we might be a little bit early stage for product market fit, but this is what we're trying to strive towards. So the same goes for any industry. It doesn't have to be D2C. We don't have to be talking about physical products. Here are a couple of other examples of how we might reframe the what into why in order to really define those attributes of success, right? So how does a company source raw materials? Why don't they already know where to get different raw materials, right? How does somebody choose to invest their money, right? Why do they need to invest, and why haven't they already invested it yet? How do physical therapists lower their turnover rates for clients, right? It's a really common question we see. How do I retain more customers, right? Well, why is the turnover rate high in the first place? So really getting to the root of what it is that we're trying to solve for. Okay, so I'm going to transition super fast into what this looks like practically, right? So we can talk about defining these success attributes, right? We can talk about finding product market fit, but we're entrepreneurs, we're founders. How do we do this on a day-to-day basis? What does this literally look like if we're trying to start a company? I have this framework that I call the golden triad. So there's a three-pronged approach to figuring out your customer development strategy. We have your top part is your approach, so your intent, the types of research that you're actually trying to collect, right? And how you're going to collect that, right? So we've got our why, what is your intent? We've got our what are you actually collecting? And then how are you choosing to do that, right? How are you collecting it? And I'm going to walk you through what this looked like for me in the company that I went through, Founder Institute 2, and then I went through a couple other incubators and I operated for 4 years. So approach, let's start high level. You're going to find your weakness, right? So ask yourself, what would stop this person from doing X, right? What would stop us from selling Y? Types. My guideline here is for every piece of qualitative information, you need to get a piece of quantitative information. For every, market statistic, every piece of quantitative information you have, you need to find a qualitative piece, right? So we're balancing both the types of information that we're getting. We're not over-reliant on market research. We're not over-reliant on specific circumstantial information that's too qualitative, right? Last, methods. Our goal here is to prove what's actually real. So we need to use multiple methods to access these multiple types of information. So an example, these are from real projects, by the way. It would be awesome to see your fridge organization, right? Do you feel comfortable passing along a photo, right? We could talk about someone's nutrition or their diet all day, right? But actually getting a visual, a different method to access that same information is going to allow us to prove or disprove what our hunch is. You said you spent around $60. Do you mind sending me that invoice from last month, right? I'm collecting as many as I can. I actually collected like over 65 invoices of other businesses, garbage companies, in order to vet and build my own pricing model, right, in my company. So the goal here is that we're using different methods of research in order to access those same attributes that we need to define. So where do you start? You kind of just begin, right? So we set the goal when we started of at least 20 interviews and doing as many site visits as possible. So my recommendation, a great rule of thumb, if you haven't done customer development, is to do 20 interviews and 5 site visits. And I'm going to put a real hot potato out there. A survey doesn't count unless you've got over 150 respondents. A lot of people might say, I don't know if I like the sound of that, right? But a survey should actually really technically be quant data. You need a statistical representation of who your audience is. You might be sending out things like questionnaires, right, to gauge different people's opinions or to collect different types of methods, or excuse me, to collect like high-level information, or maybe collect emails, but that's not actually a survey, right? So we can't be talking about that in percentage terms. So if he's asking, what do I mean by site visits? That's a great question. I'm going to show you some pictures and then I'll explain what I mean by site visit. So start with sourcing a list of your stakeholders, put it in a Google Calendar, or excuse me, a Google Sheet, and then decide. We had a line item whether we're going to call them, email them, or message them in person, right? And depending on your relationship with the person, you might choose to approach them differently. So how do you decide then your method for each of these types of stakeholders, right? How do I know whether I'm going to call someone, email someone, or go in person? And this is consistent across all the consulting projects that we do too. For email, usually I'm using email if it's a formal stakeholder that I want a partnership with. So I like want that exchange in writing, right? You're prioritizing if you're emailing someone, their time management. You're putting the ball into their court, right? For calling, it's usually pretty informal. We called a lot of our customers, and that's because they were restaurants. So restaurant participants, people who work at restaurants, are not really sitting on email all that much. And the delay for email was pretty high. So we would call and then we would go in person where it would add value to get that face-to-face time. I'd say if you have the opportunity to go to your customers in person, do that as much as you possibly can. Cool. So here's a quick clip of what this looks like for us. I was building a waste company. I was operating as a legal garbage lady in the city of New York. And our goal was really kind of building this revolution around food waste. Many of you, I don't know where you're based, but residential composting was just put into place in the city. So there's been some good ticks forward. So we had kind of a two-pronged approach. One was design a recycling service that's actually really human-centered, one that people really want, and to turn this food waste into what is traditionally a liability into like a commodity for cities. So we were monetizing all of the different streams of material that we were getting, right? This was our one-liner, right? Hodge is the first end-to-end desirable recycling service that leads collection of organics and directs this material to where the demand is. Hot tip here, right? Our research became our first customers. So we interviewed 65 different restaurants, and that became our waiting list. So they were our first customers. We actually had restaurants that ended up investing in us, right? And then they turned into public advocates. So this customer development is going to bode really well for your trajectory if you invest in it appropriately from step one. So prioritizing those meaningful conversations, I think over, like I said, equal quant with qual, really prioritizing those meaningful conversations is going to build your success as a company, right? You're building your own momentum. So our approach, when we were starting our customer development, our customer research, our approach was really uncovering circumstantial information. Like, we're a recycling service. Do people actually even want to recycle in the first place, right? I'm not going to go in there and tell them that they should do what they should do or what they shouldn't do. Our goal is, do they actually really want this? What are the obstacles for adoption, right? What are they doing with their current garbage? What are their jobs like? What's their life like, right? We were shaping through asking these questions the user journey, and this was what allowed us to define success criteria that gave us like a 99% customer retention rate. Like we literally had one customer drop over the course of our entire tenure because we were really focused on putting them at the center of our value prop. Okay, next part of the golden triad, what were we actually collecting? So we practically in our customer development process, we're collecting firsthand opinions. We were collecting actual waste bills that we use for our pricing strategy. We were collecting a lot of photos of waste bins and garbage cans, photos of trash, photos of contamination in trash, photos of plates of food, right? Existing compost facilities. We were doing system maps, so we're collecting stakeholder information from experts, not just customers. And we were like literally tracking what trucks are going where around the city. So a lot of circumstantial information that allowed us to insert ourselves into the system. How were we doing this? A lot of restaurant site visits. So a site visit, we'd map out a neighborhood and go door to door to the business and introduce ourselves to the manager and say hello. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't work, right? And you got to be ready to be kind of shut down. Made a lot of phone calls. We made more phone calls, more site visits. And over the course of these, what we're really doing is collecting interviews. right? So these are a lot of short form and long form interviews. So what do some of the deliverables look like here, right? At the end of your research, what are you putting this into is a common question that I get in the process. We're like, okay, we're collecting this. How do we show this to people if they're curious? This was a persona that we built pretty early on. A persona is going to be your archetype, right? You're defining the attributes of who this person is through the attributes of the problem, right? And this allows you to kind of communicate what their priorities are. This is a different persona for a different project, right? You can see similarities, you can see differences. But I think I'd call you out to a really good persona is going to have a title that is representative of their archetype, right? In this case, this is a project manager, right? But her role in this overarching company as a customer is really the coordinator. Everything she was doing was oriented around coordinating. And in this particular project, right, we ended up presenting using these personas to shape, this is a consulting project. We use these personas to shape the success criteria, right? Calling back to the beginning of my presentation. So here, number one, we're looking at this proposed solution should decrease workflow time, right? And these success criteria are going to turn into your KPIs, right? So all of these different stages of your business are going to bleed together. This is where we put our research. So we created, this is Airtable, but you could use Google Sheets. We listed out every single customer. We categorized them by type. We categorized them by attribute. This is just a tiny little smidgen clip of what it looked like, but it's a big sheet, right? Where we're actually tracking every single data point we had over the course of the customer so that we could then go in and compare what did they look like? How many of different types did we have? Are they advocates, right? Are they interested? Here's some examples of what we were collecting. I kid you not, when I say I have like probably over 1,000 pictures of garbage on my phone, I do. But for me, that was customer development, right? I got to see how a customer was interacting with their existing services. And this is what we ended up using to develop into our actual physical supply chain. It's how we chose the containers we used. It's how we chose the vehicles we used. It's how we built our financial model because we could then calculate really specific, nuanced, data-informed projections, right? So pretty gnarly. I won't show you any more of those. Oh, there we go. And then you could see this is, we took some photos. We'd go once we started piloting, we brought our buckets to the location and would continue our customer development pretty periodically throughout our process, right? So 75, this is my last slide, 75% of our wait list came from direct referral or from customer development. So the first people that we interviewed referred another person who referred another person. So this hands-on interviewing process built really good relationships. First interview, right? Which is kind of a crazy statistic. When you find your people, you know, right? We consistently got employee referrals from the people that we conducted research with. And so we found that when we had these on-site interviews, we would end up getting people who'd email us to work for us. So it actually ended up building our team because we found values-aligned people through the process of this research. We built our customer advisory board from our research stakeholders. And my company is closed now. We closed last year, and I still get emails from our customers saying that they miss us. All right. So customer development, I think the lesson there is put them first. 3 takeaways across the presentation. Be super specific with your search for success criteria, right? Be as specific as you possibly can. Adamantly ask why before telling your what. And your customers are going to define your product for you. They'll define product market fit for you. You just have to listen. Okay? And I'm happy to chat more specifically. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Rose. Sorry, I had to find my unmute button as always. But no, I love that. Like bringing you in like gives such credibility because I try to say these numbers and people are always like, you're insane. No one actually like really does that, right? You know, a lot of people, they don't tell me that, but you can see it in their eyes that that's what they're thinking. And so I get to like bring you in and be like, no, not only do people do this, this is how it can lead to like great things. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I
um,
would say, my company failed, but it didn't fail because the customers stopped paying us. It failed for like regulatory reasons, So unfortunate. I like wish that I could say, we're blossoming and growing. But unfortunately, waste infrastructure is tough like that. Like I think, yeah, if you really invest meaningfully in your customer development in a hands-on way, right? Do more than just market research, you're like genuinely building your roadmap, um, which is pretty cool.
I can't book you for office hours, but like, do you have like time I'd be able to like talk to you a little bit more?
Sure. I'll drop my email in the chat
Awesome.
and yeah, I'm happy to chat through. Oops. Um, yeah, there we go. Yeah, and I'm happy to chat through like customer development strategy. It can look a little bit different if your product is digital, if your product is physical. So really defining like, using that golden triad, I would say, to define like what is actually your strategy for getting and accessing these customers and hearing what they have to say is pretty important to specify for your business.
I'd love to have a chat as well. My customers are very large enterprises.
Yeah, enterprise is tough.
Like
Enterprise is really tough.
most of my end users are billion-dollar corporations or bigger.
So my gut sense there would be, and I'm only speaking from like the project I just finished was with a company that, does 15 bill in revenue per year, like mega enterprise corporate as well. And we actually encountered quite a bit of friction along the project because, you know, the managers, the director level hired us, right? But the actual people who are using the product are different than the decision makers. So probably at the end of the day, my gut is that there's still a human behind that veil of enterprise that's going to be the person who's interacting with your software or interacting with your product. And it's the strategies figuring out how do you actually access that particular person, that user, right? And your research for that user is probably going to be different than your research for that decision maker. Because the decision maker cares about different metrics of success than that user does. And so really distinguishing those two segments, like you can create separate user personas for the decision makers than for the actual users. But ultimately, like you're going to need stickiness for both, right? So tailoring what you're building too much to the decision maker, like might end up hindering you, right? So trying to figure out like if it is an enterprise company, can you like show up to some of the offices? Is there a way that you can email people or message them on LinkedIn? Like any sort of friendlies to distinguish how do I actually engage with the real people that are going to be like logging into my email interface on a daily basis? I don't know
I've
what
tried hundreds of
your
outreaches on LinkedIn and these guys have such large portfolios of stuff they own and operate that they basically just don't look at LinkedIn. Some of them
yeah,
don't even have LinkedIn
it's
in their
gotten a little bit
profiles.
bogged down lately. Can I ask what industry your product is in?
Commercial real estate.
Okay, and you're looking at like portfolio owners,
Yeah,
managers?
yeah.
Okay, we can chat about it a little bit more. I'm I think that you can find my cold email success rate is pretty high. Um, and LinkedIn, not so much. Kind of depends on LinkedIn. But happy to chat to see if there's a better way we can strategize accessing who that person is.
Thanks. I'll shoot you an email.
Okay, we're going to move into our pitch portion of the evening. And and yeah, Ken, take it over for us.
All right. Sun you're first up to pitch. As you guys remember, this is a 1 minute pitch. And at the end of this pitch, mentors will give the founders, as we were saying before, ratings right? 5 means you think it's spectacular, right? You're ready to whip out your checkbook and invest in it yourself. 4 means you think it's pretty good, right? There's really something there. We don't give any 3s. 2 means that it's a good idea, but still significant amount of work to do. And 1 means that the idea doesn't make any sense. The founder should pivot, or the pitch was just really, really bad. So think of it that way. At this point, right, we're early in the pitching phase. So at this point, we normally get a lot of 1s and 2s just to kind of set where we are. But Suyin, are you ready to go?
Is it me?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Okay. I'll start. Has anyone heard of a menstrual cup? It's a sustainable alternative to pads and tampons that collects blood internally. It offers comfort and freedom, almost like you're not having your period. But why do many people still choose traditional products? Because the existing menstrual cups can be inconvenient, messy, and challenging to use, especially in public restrooms where your fingers get covered with blood and you have to bring and wash it in the public sink. Around the world, millions are suffering from period poverty and are forced to use unsafe substitutes like sneaker pads. Menstrual Cup can effectively address this issue by providing a sustainable solution. Cozy Leaf directly tackles these usability challenges and period poverty through an innovative pattern file design, providing easy insertion plus discharge without fully removing the cup and pain-free removal. We aim to transform menstrual experiences globally through innovation, comfort, and sustainability. Thank you.
Very nice. And you made it just under 2 seconds, so good job. All right. Mentors, if you can hold up your ratings in 3, 2, 1, go. Let's see, we've got a 4, a 2, a 4, and Marina, you want to show me with just hold up your finger how many you want to rate her?
Oh, sorry. I just wanted. We are rating the pitch or the
Yes.
customer development part. Oh, just the pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
4. Okay, fantastic. All right, fantastic. All right. Pavel, why don't you give feedback first?
I have little to no expertise in this. I would say just to review if you need FDA requirement for these products, because basically wherever the body touches, wherever product touches the body, there is a usual some kind of FDA approval needed. So I don't know if your product needs FDA approval. I don't know the criteria for the research to actually do how safe this product, etc. But you have big customer base, so I think it's viable product.
Oh, thank you.
Fantastic. Natalia.
Yeah, definitely it was clear as far as what the product was right away. I mean, being a woman, obviously I knew what the product was, so I do have advantage in that space. I would say great as far as the problem, like you lined it out really well as far as the problem, why you would need a product or a better product in that space, in that market. One thing that I feel like either you rushed through or was you left it towards the end, like how you're different, how you're actually solving that problem, like what is your solution to the messiness, like to all this problem. So I felt like I wanted to hear more of that, like how are you solving the current products that are on the market, like how is your product different. So I would maybe polish that up a little bit more, or put that a little bit more not front facing, but just get that a little clearer. But other than that, I think it's definitely need for that. So great job.
Thank you. Could I ask one question? I only have like 1 minute. That's why I need to like cram everything in 1 minute. So I couldn't have like enough time to elaborate and explain more about my products.
So I think we want to make sure that the real idea here is that when you're in a situation where you're meeting somebody and you've got to get enough information to them to where they want to continue to engage with you. So I think ultimately you're not going to be able to say your whole business plan and all these things, but we need enough so that we're coming back to you, right? We're like, oh, this was an interesting conversation, right? We're coming back to you. So I would think of it like that. But and I with the feedback, right? When you think of it, like we need to get you need to give those kinds of things through the pitch, right? That hopefully that makes sense for everybody. All right, Rose, you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah, just to clarify, these are no slides pitches, all of them?
Yes.
Okay.
In the beginning, right? There are no slides.
Yeah,
and then,
that's fine. Just making sure. Yeah, I give you 2. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I feel like my 2 cents is it felt to me, one, my immediate thought was like there's 5,000 versions of this. And so that competitive difference to me, I wanted to hear a little bit more clearly. And I know it's tough because you only have 1 minute. So for this short elevator pitch, I feel like I would probably pull that up to the beginning in some way. And pull up, like, I'm reading that you mentioned that you're patented. Like, again, pull that up also because that is like a huge win, I think, in terms of competitive advantage. And then my last piece of feedback is try to like relax a little bit. I think like it sounds so rehearsed and you're touching on all the information. I think the more practice you get, it will feel a little bit looser and a little lighter to the tongue. I think that will encourage and really support your presentation as you practice.
Thank you. I really didn't expect to be a first.
I know it's tough.
And Marina.
Yeah, I think it's great. I agree with Natalia that the problem was really well defined. I think you might be narrowing it a little bit too much because, it sounded to me you're narrowing it to public spaces, right? Like public restrooms specifically. But honestly, it's a problem anywhere and everywhere. Like the cups are a problem anywhere and everywhere. So I don't know if you need to actually like go into that, but like the visual was very clear. Yes, like blood on your hands is not really pleasant, especially in the public restroom. So I think you did a great job with the problem, but I also immediately felt that, but how is this better than what's available? And similarly to Rose's feedback, if you can mention patent, if you can pull it in earlier and show how you differentiate yourself from other solutions, would be helpful. But I am interested, like in hearing more, so that's why I'm giving it a 4.
Thank you so much. Because like product kind of solves the problem and it doesn't need to like cover your hands in the public sink. That's why I wanted to like emphasize there.
I know
But I think it's like better to take it out.
Yeah, well, I think the other thing is we got to make sure that we got enough time to get through this. So we can't give a lot of feedback or any feedback really. We just kind of appreciate what the mentors have been saying.
Okay,
all right.
thank you.
The next up is Nestor.
Hi. My name is Nestor Barrios. I'm the CEO and founder of Settlewise. Many of you were born in United States and have immigrant roots. Some of you came as an immigrant and are already established in this country. Many immigrants come looking for a better life, chasing a dream. I'm one of them. I came 7 years ago and have seen new immigrants struggling, dealing with legal processes, financial, housing, jobs, aspects of their journey. The processes are disconnected, information is very confusing, and there's not the right support for them. On top of that, immigration is on top of the headlines. That's why I create Settlewise. Settlewise is an all-in-one web-based mobile application designed to help new and prospective Latino immigrants coming to United States legally by offering an AI-driven, personalized, step-by-step guidance and access.
All right, Nestor, that's time. Right. So ratings in stop my thing. Ratings in 3, 2, 1, go. So we've got a 2, a 2, a 4, and Marina. Can
Oh,
you
I
show me? Oh, a 2. Sorry, I missed it. Yes, I see it now. Thank you so much. All right. Um, uh, um, Natalia, why don't you go first this time?
Yeah, so obviously you got cut short, so that's the first reason for giving two. I didn't hear your like how you're different, right? So, the hook of I got the problem, I got the audience, I got the product, a little bit of the product, but what makes you different within the space kind of got lost. So obviously that will be an important, really important point that will get you to at least 4 or 5. So I mean, in this climate, obviously the legal aspect of getting somebody who's an immigrant, me being an immigrant, like I can sympathize with how terrible it is and how complicated and how scary it can be for somebody who doesn't even know where to start or who to go and where to go. So, but I also wanted to hear what makes this particular app different. So I'll leave it at that, just because I don't know what that is. So hopefully that clarifies my answer.
Thank you.
Pavel, you want to go next?
I would say I agree with everything said, and I would add that I would say the legal is not number one, in my opinion. The number one is a cultural shock and assimilation. So a lot of people who come in United States, including me, as an immigrant, is the biggest problem is a cultural shock. It's absolutely everything different from the your own country, and you need to basically figure stuff out how to deal with it. So this is problem number one, and the legal assimilation and legal is come kind of after that. So basically, the person needs to first come down and realize, okay, what I need to do next. Because in state of shock, the person can't really do any. You can't really expect the person to do any adequate decision at that moment. So this is the one thing I would say to keep in mind when you're developing your product. The second, you don't really need to put yourself in a box just to Latin America, is because the problem is universal for every country. So you can, if you can talk to basically various customers to better understand the problem they have. So because the reason I'm saying is basically when the people move into the, let's say we are in the United States, so I will use it as example. So in New York City, we have the areas like Brighton Beach, mostly predominantly Russian. So there is in Queens, there is the area predominantly Korean and Chinese, the huge district. And basically when people move in, they technically automatically gets into those areas because they speak the native language and they talk to each other, but they share the same problem from every country, and they kind of talked about, and they kind of like get sunk up in a group think. So if you expand the search and talk to people from different areas and different you might uncover some different perspective and their troubles.
Fantastic. All right, Marina, why don't you go next?
Yeah, well, great start. I thought the pace was really nice, but then of course you got cut off and I didn't hear the actual kind of like how the product worked and was different from what's available. I am thinking about viability, risk. You're pursuing a challenging population to monetize with. So I wish I could hear more how that would be handled. And then I also know that there are a lot of kind of grassroots solutions that also exist, right? Like WhatsApp groups, and connections. I still think it's a big problem that potentially could be resolved, but it's without knowing how you're solving it. It was really like hard to give a higher rate. It would be, I think the pace was actually in this kind of conversational tone, conversational approach to it. That was perfect. And like it felt not rehearsed. It's like maybe you just like limit the number of words, number of sentences at the beginning, but like it just felt very relatable, back to like some of that rehearsed kind of tone that often becomes unavoidable when you have to pack so much information, right, into a short presentation. That's it.
All right.
If I can add quickly, I also maybe just to think about the Trump recently announced the gold card. So this is wealthy individual coming in the US, and you can potentially provide the white glove services to help them to where to settle and all other services. And they actually have money to pay. Thanks to Marina mentioning that the usual crowd doesn't have money.
All right, Rose.
I give you a 4. I'm not an immigrant, so this is not my domain of expertise. I think I heard you insert your value proposition in a really clear way, and in an elevator pitch, I don't even really need to hear exactly how it's going to happen. I'm like, that sounds like a fantastic application of AI. Sounds like it's a really good, like, I don't even doubt that that's possible, to be honest. Depending on actually what you're trying to achieve. And for an elevator pitch, I'm pretty hooked. I'm intrigued, and it makes me want to learn more. I think you can speed up your pitch a little bit. I don't need to find common ground with your audience. I think in that type of elevator pitch, you spent some time at the beginning doing that. And then you could probably shorten your journey a little bit. Like for a longer pitch, you can include more of that. But for this type of thing, I think just honing in on really what is the specific use case, or what is that kind of, I think a few of the other mentors have said, kind of target user journey, or like really specific persona that's going to be the first user of this type of application. And in my mind, there's a lot of information out there. How people go about sorting through immigration papers just from friends' experience is like kind of insane to think about. So what is that first use case? And how, to be honest, for me, I'm like, don't even need to worry about how these days with all of the different models that are out there. But I'm intrigued to see you prototype that and see some early successful use cases.
Thank
And
you
I
for
guess
the feedback.
the last thing, sorry, I'll add in, and I'm not super concerned about the how so much either, because it sounds like you're advising versus actually offering like real legal advice. So if you're accumulating information, seems to be to me like a somewhat a less liability zone if that's where you're starting, and that's kind of what I registered from the get-go. And maybe I misinterpreted that, but that's what I heard.
Fantastic.
Thank
All
you.
right. Very, very good feedback from the founders, or from the mentors. Sorry about that. All right. Up next is Patricia.
Hello. Most sex toys are designed with limited vibrational patterns and gimmicky features. We're expected to adapt our needs to their offerings, shopping around to find one that hopefully works for us rather than the other way around. My company, Hum, has designed the only vibrator that listens to your body and responds in real time. We've done that by combining haptic sensors and a unique software engine to provide an organic, reactive toy that learns how to better please you every time you use it. We launched with just a prototype and a crowdfunding campaign and immediately sold every unit we made with a $0 marketing budget. We still have people contacting us, asking us to buy a replacement unit, saying it was the only sex toy that worked for them. Hum is successful and necessary because we learned to listen to what women want and give it to them. That was it.
Very nice. You had a couple seconds left, but you started like great job. All right, oh, there we go. All right, ratings in 3, 2, 1, go. Let's see. 4. All right. And
Actually, I'm gonna give you a 5. I changed my 5. My instinct was 5, and then I downed it because I saw the other 4s, but I can't be influenced.
all right.
Thank
All
you.
right. All right. Well, in this case, Rose, why don't you go first?
Sure, yeah. I will say the first 10 seconds, I was like, wait, what did she say? Like I didn't quite pick up on the first portion of it, but you followed up so clearly and articulately with your value proposition, which was followed by traction. I was like, okay, value prop, clear. This is interesting. And then you inserted the traction, and I'm like, wow, boom. Like I'm sold. That's great. It sounds like you've got early development. You kind of put the right pieces in place when I was expecting to hear them a little bit. I think you could probably strengthen that first portion, like the right hot out the gate. And it's possible that like my internet glitched or something. So I didn't capture the very beginning. But you touched on all the pieces that I was expecting to hear. Maybe the only piece is like competitive advantage, but you kind of answer that, right, with the traction piece. And so good job.
Thank you.
Marina, why don't you go next?
Yeah, I don't mean to repeat, but actually exactly same feedback. I only took off one point because I also just was like, what are we talking about? Couldn't quite get it at the beginning, but like all the points of validation are so incredibly strong, that GoFundMe success and your satisfaction results. I mean, I'd be like wanting to put money into this, so it's great.
Thank you so much.
Pavel.
So I saw the presentation of another Founders Institute company on the stage, the company called Firebase, and I would say you probably can push, read, and can find they have a video recording of the founder. It was a founder showcase like probably 10 years back, but they do have video recording of the presentation on stage. Watching it, I think, will be helpful. You are in a space, you own the stage, so you need to feel more comfortable pitching this. So basically, if you see that presentation, I will try to find if I find it online, but I might not. But they do have in the records video of the founder showcase recording, and they actually in the recording there is a judges who provides a feedback on the page. So you will understand what I mean about that. The person, the founder, she went on a stage and she owned the stage when she was presenting the product. So, but great, thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
And Natalia.
Yeah, so the same thing. At first, when you started, I'm like X-ray. So I'm thinking like, all right, medical field, you're gonna be in the hospital. So I'm already like putting my mind in another place, and then you like divert me into a completely different different room, which is not hospital, much nicer, much more pleasurable. No pun intended. Which is great. So in some ways, it could be a benefit where you just getting people to wake up, but obviously it can be done differently where you getting somebody in that nice place in the beginning where people are like, oh, tell me more. But like the same thing, you did a great job as far as with very few words. I mean, the idea that the fact that you got us all hooked before your minutes expired, like congratulations on getting that done that quickly. So fantastic point. Just change that beginning, and I think you're off to the races. So well done.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Did you have an ask at the end of your pitch, by the way?
I didn't.
I feel like that would be the only piece to me that is like really actively missing is what's the ask? Like, do you know, are you looking for customers? Are you looking for money? Are you looking for, how can you engage kind of the hook line of the person you're pitching to, but otherwise.
Awesome. Okay. Excellent.
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. Really good feedback. The next person we've got is Brian.
Hello, I'm Brian Higgins, founder of Additive Connect. Additive is a turnkey ISP platform that empowers building owners, low voltage installers, or other smart building service providers to offer internet as an amenity in apartment and office buildings, effectively becoming ISPs but without needing skilled or expensive network engineers to run and maintain the system. Unlike traditional managed Wi-Fi, which usually underperforms and frustrates tenants, Additive does what a real ISP does. We deliver a fast, dumb pipe to each unit, giving residents a reliable ISP-grade connection they control, with zero manual setup required from the installer. Now more than ever, property owners recognize that internet is critical infrastructure and a missed revenue opportunity if left to the cable companies. We offer them a better path that protects tenant privacy, supports smart devices, and delivers service instantly. We're already deployed nationally, and we're seeking investment to fuel our growth and scale through new reseller partnerships, bringing this model to thousands more buildings.
Right on time. All right, ratings in 3, 2, 1, go. 4, 4, 2, and 2. All right. Pavel, why don't you go first this time?
I don't know what the area you start in it. I just, from my experience, it's in New York. Basically, there is like it's all over the place. But in Florida, there is a homeowners association that basically allow just one provider, and usually it's included in the homeowner association fees if they provide the internet. There is often case. The thing is, over there is a whole process of negotiation with the provider to provide it. But there is a few companies who do that. So there is a companies who actually negotiate on HOA behalf the price and provide the internet. At the reduced cost, like they provide sometimes the package, sometimes with the cable boxes, sometimes just internet. I didn't saw this in New York, but it's reasonable basically to offer this opportunity and negotiate the price for the potential tenants lower than on the market price. So I would do. I would suggest for you to do the research on Florida, find the few companies who do that, and it would be easy Google search and basically research them, what they do, and just copy and paste what you think best they do to your startup. And the other part is state by state regulations is different. So I would check how it's affect non-compete in New York City, all this stuff, because I know that some buildings in New York City just provide, let's say, RCN, some just Spectrum, some provide you can choose. So I would say just do the research on that. But I like the idea.
I want to add that we're post revenue and I'm already in like 10 states.
Oh, that's even better.
All right. Natalia, why don't you go next?
I like the presentation. I think you hit all the right points, all at the right time. It was a good pacing. You clearly explained what the product was. I think even for the most people who might not know what ISP stands for, I think at this point most people do know because we all have internet, and at some point and another in our lives we all got to hear it. So it's not that complicated. The fact that you mentioned that you already, it's deployed, so there's validity. The one thing I would probably potentially say, so I know earlier you were asking like, how do I get in touch with building owners? So you're possibly in that space where, yes, it's the building owners, but then they have tenants, right? In some cases, tenants can voice their opinions to the building owners and managers like, hey, I need hot water. Hey, I need this. Hey, I improved my life this way. So I think if you can't get in touch with building owners, get in touch with people who live there, because they would probably be even, they would be your advocates. They would be the ones who are going to sell this product for you. So maybe possibly go that route, and it might be easier for you to do it through the tenants versus through the buildings. And some of it is what Rose talked about in her deck, like go to the source. So that would be my 2 cents. But well done.
Thank you. We are trying to do a lot of new construction, so that complicates that piece, but it's good advice.
Rose, would you like to go next?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, interesting concept. I was a little stuck between a 2 and a 4, but I opted for 2. I think that you can make it even more human in the pitch. The technical terms, like we're familiar with them, we all have internet, but as simple as you can make it from the get-go, I think I want to be able to walk away from your pitch with like a super clear, really simple one-liner of this company installs internet for you so that you don't have to, and they get and property managers get to keep the revenue, right? Like what is the really basic human, like Dropbox pitch deck 2005 one-liner look like? And you can always follow up with more technical detail, but I think that I lost that in the beginning a little bit. And I spent more time trying to digest what you were saying. And then to say, oh, we're post money, we're in 10 states, we've got a bunch of revenue, like say that at the beginning, right? Say that at the very beginning, after, kind of an intro of who you are. So I think that you have a lot going for you. It's a really interesting space and concept, but it sounds like you're like your operator kind of living in the weeds, and to remove yourself from that position and zoom out a little bit would benefit you and in really selling the scalability of what this looks like cross state rather than like proving that you can execute it right cross state. So that's my 2 cents. And then, yeah, Natalia was spot on. I'd say like it sounds like you have a go-to-market strategy to some degree, but as much as you can expand to who the users are, like is there a way for tenants to kind of advocate or ask for this? What does the actual tenant experience look like? I do like my questions like, well, are you like jipping the tenants a little bit? Like, or is it actually really beneficial for them? That would be pretty interesting to know if you found that it does actually reduce internet rates for them or things like that. Those metrics would be good.
It does.
Fantastic. All
I
right.
figured.
Marina.
Yeah, so I gave it 2 because honestly, I didn't quite get what was the difference, like with like how are you competing against Verizon, for example, or like the other providers. It took me, even though like if you think about, and of course we're switching context here very quickly, so like on ISP, it took me a minute to translate that in my head, like what we were talking about. MTU buildings, I missed completely. So like I just couldn't quite like piece it all together, like how you were, better than like the alternatives, like that pipe to each unit. How is that different from the like the cable? Again, like those were the things that just didn't add up for me. But the whole piece about obviously post revenue is very critical, would have given me more confidence. And I completely can relate to a challenge in customer development in B2B space. And like all of those personas, buyers, users, and influencers, which would be the owners. I think maybe like property management companies, they're more accessible because like they work with providers, like local providers. That's another, and I would try to call them. Actually, I do agree that in those spaces, cold email and phone calls are better than LinkedIn. Yeah. Good luck.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
All right. And our last hot seat pitch for tonight is Flavia.
I'm Bhavya, founder of Climb. Climb is a shopping search engine for clean living that enables new parents to find trustworthy, clean alternatives to everyday products in seconds with a simple prompt. It's essentially the perplexity for clean living. So the problem that Climb addresses is urgent, but it's hidden. lots of everyday products that you use, from your skincare to your cleaning supplies, contain a lot of microplastics, hormone disrupting chemicals at levels that lead to long-term health issues. Now, the issue is not just that we have these ingredients. Finding trustworthy clean alternatives on Amazon or Google Shopping is extremely exhausting, time-consuming, not great for a new parent. With Klein, we are transforming clean living from an exhausting project into an effortless daily choice because we believe that your family health matters, and so does your time.
Very nice. All right. Ratings in 3, 2, 1, go. Let's see. A 4, a 2, a 4, and a 2. All right. Rose, why don't you go first this time?
Yeah. Really almost exactly the feedback I gave to Brian. I feel like you heard, so good job. You guys should work together. Really, really clear one-liner that within the first 10 seconds I heard. And you don't have a description even in the FI thing, and I still remember what your company is and what it is. So the one-liner to me is aggressively clear. Sounds like a pretty interesting problem space. I think that there's a big zeitgeist kind of right now around trying to find non-toxic, kind of chemical-free based things. So I'd love to hear a little bit more on like how you're riding on that in order to get some traction or momentum. I think the only missing piece to me that would really like convert me into an investor would be that traction. Is like, what are you doing to prove? Do you have users? Do you have a wait list? How are people interacting with this? But the idea of what you're working on sounds pretty clear. A little bit fuzziness around how, again, not super duper concerned with how in the elevator pitch, other than there's a solid business plan here and there's a reason why it makes sense. And yeah, I think I'd probably have some questions on the business model, but in terms of the pitch, I thought it was clear and you answered the questions that I had when I needed them to be answered.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, Paolo, you want to go next?
I would say the competition will be tough in this space, but the good thing is right now everyone is the media. Everyone can podcast, can do the basically can grow their own audience. So over here, I would suggest to basically target through your friends and acquaintances on the social media and create the buzz around. You don't need to start big. You need to start to create the tractions. And with this type of businesses, you don't even need to always fundraise. Very often you can do it through the basically in a small batches through your own financing, bootstrap it. The only suggestion is when you grow enough that you can actually fulfill some orders. If you want to get on the shelves, like in the stores like CVS and Home Depot, etc., you don't really need to try to get to HQ. So literally, you can go to the store and find the manager who is responsible for putting the products on the shelf. In the small stores, they how they do it, basically they put small batches of the product on a shelf and see how fast it will sell out. If it sells out fast, they basically invite you back. If it's not collecting dust, and if its pattern basically works again and again, they start to recommend you to nearby stores and potentially to the regional managers and so on.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback, Paul. I think one thing to clarify is I'm building a search engine. So technically, I'm not at the moment planning on the logistics part or the product creation part. I'm just providing a platform for easy search.
We can't we can't respond to the questions. We just gotta
sorry about that.
Improving our pitch for the next time. The main concern is we want to make sure that everybody gets as much time to do this. And that'll be more similar to an elevator pitch, right? What'll happen is you'll be in the room or in an elevator, right, with some kind of VC or something like that, and they'll walk away. You'll have said what you said, and you'll never get to hear kind of their thoughts. Here you get to hear them, but we
Yeah.
don't have enough time for you to relitigate it, but we want to make sure that you're thinking about this for the next time.
Yeah. So
Make sense?
on that part is basically, I would say that would be feedback for you that I completely misunderstood the whole pitch. So you need to keep in mind when you pitch the investors, the partial goal on Founders Institute to get your honest feedback. Because when you go to friends and family, they tell you thumb ups, great idea, go for it. And they never tell you really honest feedback. And when you go to investors, they don't give you honest feedback either. They will give you basically ton of excuses, but they don't tell you why they don't invest. So in this case, and I invested in a bunch of the Founders Institute startups, I would say that may be the case that you pitch and investors like me didn't understand what you're pitching. And so you need to tailor your pitch more to clarify the product.
Great, Natalia.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I mean, I love the passion, or I love where you're coming from, and creating something that, better for Earth, better for us, better ingredients, clean products, and making it easy for those people who search for that, find it. I do feel like this is certainly going to be a tough space to be in from both the competition that's already out there. There are apps out there, there are search engines out there that are using, tools to make it easier for people to find products with clean ingredients. So how will you be different in that space is going to be really critical. How, are you doing something that's easy, that somebody can do on their phone while they're in the store, or are you doing it when they're planning their purchases before they even go to a store, going into online space? So also thinking about this, there's a lot of people who are either, say like, all right, there's a lot of greenwashing happening out there. There's a lot of products that will, say that they're safe, but they're really not, so, where do you draw the line? How are you verifying this information? Are you just going by what they're providing you? Are you actually testing the products in your own lab? Like those kind of things that are going to, make it either a real solution or something that just people are going to ignore because they don't trust it. But hopefully it will be the latter, and it is something that is making people's lives better, and forcing other companies to create products that are cleaner. So I do want this to work, and I want you to create something that would be great. But I do feel like you definitely need to work on refining that, both in how you're presenting it and both in the product, within the space. It's just there's a lot of competition out there that already is doing something similar. So making sure that your unique position, like how you're different, is clear right there up front.
Anne-Marie?
Yes, I also was not 100% sure what the pitch was. And when you responded to Pavel and said it's a search engine, I wish you used that somehow in the pitch. So I kind of assumed that probably what was what you were going with, and then immediately I see all the business model questions in my head, like they come up. I came across this product called Yuka, Yuka. It's an app. It's a French app. It's a French app, and basically they provide you information on like any product you're using, like all the ingredients and like how harmful or not harmful they are. I think that could be something like interesting to consider. They do like bring in, they it's not super transparent to me. Like when I tried using them, like how like they consider something super harmful, they give you a score, right? Like this product is harmful, this product is less harmful. It's mostly for like food and actually cosmetics. But you know, like there could be something that you can maybe get from that app as well. But I know that their business, like the business model is a challenge. They cannot sell, they have a free tier and then they have a paid tier and they are unable to sell their paid tier. So it's just something that I took in, and that's why I gave it two. By the way, I'm kind assuming myself to be in the position of an investor when I hear the pitch. We are like not being asked directly, but that's what my assumption from which I'm giving the rating that I do.
That's perfect, right, Marina? And I think one of the things I've really enjoyed about the feedback that all the founders have given uh, is the fact that you're giving us the perspective of an investor and what it's like to kind of, as a founder, reel them in, right? So when I think about it, right, you're not going to have a whole lot of time to talk to people, and a common theme through a lot of your feedback today has been, hey, how do you get people in the right mind so that they're thinking about your product, right? And how do you get the greatest number of people in that kind of right mainframe? And one of the things that's really helpful with that is if you're really good at doing that, you're in you're in the elevator with one investor, and they hear your pitch and they're like, I don't like that space. I don't know that space. That's not interesting to me. But you explained it so clearly that they can explain it to their friend who does invest in that space, who is interested in what you're doing. So now you're getting to leverage your pitch, not just to the person you're talking to, but to other people they know, right? And so I think like that's really really helpful, especially for our founders. So wanted to thank you guys for that. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, can I add just something? Can I, out of all the pitches we had today, I think like that kind of like putting in you or me with every pitch, I personally had this like first kind of what are we talking about? Like almost like trying to understand the product. And it was better with some and worse with others. And Nestor did something where he almost like you almost I think Nestor started with like a question maybe, or like this kind of like very relatable, like all these immigrants that come a relatable story, and that was like a really great way of easing into this mindset of like hearing about your offer or your value prop or your product. So just maybe like starting with a question. I don't know if it's possible, but that very first sentence is critical, I think.
I totally agree, right? And Rose, you were saying the same thing with Patty's, or where she started in one direction and all of a sudden we're going in another direction. No, that was Natalia who was saying that, and you enjoyed the transition, right? It adds interest. I think if you can be really intentional about that and really thoughtful about it, but also really careful not to lose your listener, right? I think those are the things that can make a next level pitch. So at this point in time, we want to go on to the next phase. I'm going to share my screen and hopefully you guys can see this. And I think, all right. Reed, you want to do this or you want me to do it? I can't see you, so I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and do it that you brought up. Yeah. So we're going to go into our breakout rooms. Founders, we talked about this. Mentors, just wanted to like give you, kind of idea. They're going to be presenting their buyer persona and their plan to how they're going to reach the buyer, which I think is super important. So specifically the buyer persona, we did have a little bit of a distinction here, Rose, between kind of like buyer and user, which I think is super important. But this instructions have been specifically around the buyer persona for this time. So mentors, like a couple things like particular to focus on, but obviously you all have done this for a while, and I think have the items that that are useful to, give kind of like whatever feedback you think is most valuable. I also want to say, and this goes to founders and mentors, I apologize. We are running way behind schedule. I didn't want to cut it off because I wanted to make sure we had enough founders pitch tonight. We had, some technical difficulties, some other things. Our sessions going forward, they get quicker as we go along, so we will usually get down to much closer to 2 hours. Tonight might run a little bit over. Hopefully, mentors, you're able to stay for a little bit, and founders, if anyone has to leave like right at 8:30, try to just like make sure you pitch first. The other thing is our breakout rooms, which Thomas will put us into very shortly. Tonight, they are not specifically what group you're in, what working group. They're split up a little bit more. We tried our best to kind of match you to a specific mentor, but that means we don't have one of your presidents necessarily in every room. Just have one person make sure that you time the people who are talking so that you don't go over a minute, please. So if you can just like try to quickly have one person volunteer to be timekeeper, that'll be great. Any questions from mentors or founders before Thomas sends you off into the rooms?
How much time for mentor feedback?
Because we are so late, probably try to keep it like fairly brief, but like 2 to 3 minutes. I think you should have like 5 people in most rooms, so maybe, yeah. Okay. Thomas, send us off.
Done.
Cool, thanks. And so yeah, join your rooms and if you want to stop us recording now too. Thanks, Rose.